Hello everyone, this is Foxhound coming back again with another tutorial. So in this particular one, this is a video that has been requested for quite some time. I am going to tell you about positioning. So where do you put your carrier on the map? I'm going also to mention some considerations based on what you choose, because it's not just about putting the location, so depends on what you use, let's put it this way. So before we start positioning, right, you have to consider what type of carrier or assault carrier you have. We are just going to put them in two very easy categories, let's put it this way. You have a carrier that can be fast on maneuverability, meaning it can rotate very quickly and it has a very decent speed, so it's able to hide more quickly. Or you're going to have an assault carrier that is slow. It takes more time for it to rotate. So those are the two main categories. There's a special category, as you can see, Charles de Gaulle is one option, for instance, that is on a carrier that is fairly quick to hide. Roxy VS, fairly quick to hide. America, fairly good, quick to hide. Other ones, Fujian could be in between the two of them, right? So yeah, this is almost like in between a carrier and assault carrier regarding speed, how you're able to hide. Whereas, again, as I mentioned, the assault carriers are going to take longer. There is a special mention on these three over here: Ghost Commander, Pang, yeah, these two, and Tianjin. These three have fairly high maneuverability. They can hide fairly quickly, they can maneuver faster, and that's because they have a less plane into it. They don't have a fighter. However, Ghost Commander is even a little bit more special because it's the only the only assault carrier in the game that has a stealth of 8. All the other carriers have different stealth. For example, Pan has a stealth of 4. Yeah, but in general, you don't have stealth. Tianjin is going to have a stealth of 5. So these three in particular, Ghost Commander, Pang, and Tianjin, are slightly different, very slightly, because they have also stealth involved into it. Okay, so what does that mean, Foxhound? Meaning that when you choose positioning, you can decide if you have a assault carrier that has stealth like these three. You can even consider going backwards, leaving your carrier to retreat and pretty much protect the space, meaning taking out fighters to make sure they are not able to see you. So you could potentially do that with these three, but it's very tricky because you need something to take off planes. Or you're going to have a normal assault carrier, right, that is going to pretty much hide, but depends on the map. Sometimes you can choose to hide, sometimes you can choose again to stay stationary. Again, it all depends. And of course, you have the carriers in general. All of them can maneuver faster, all of them can hide quickly. So my first advice that I will say is, like, you have to take this as a very critical thing, because I found out as I switched to Charles de Gaulle that being able to position yourself and is going to help you to be more consistent in winning matches. Okay, it's going to help you to be more consistent in winning matches. So having said that, taking all these things into consideration, right, I'm going to grab myself what everyone has, which is going to be, for example, the Enterprise. Let's go to the All Trusty Enterprise over here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the maps. I'm just going to enter matches over here with AI. I'm not going to play all the matches, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you my thoughts on what I consider to be the best places to position your carrier. Okay, so I am going to go to here. We're going to put this offline, and I'm going to start checking all the maps. Okay, so we are going to start with Arctic. Okay, so we have Arctic over here. What's my recommendation for this map? You can decide to go backwards. Remember, when you have a carrier, you can leave it on, for example, forward or backwards, and it's going to move regardless if you have your planes. And my option is to go to the lower left side of the map. That is one option. Best if you have a Ghost Commander, and especially if you have a map that has, like, for example, some type of submarines with anti-ballistic missiles, you can do that. Or you can go forward and you can hide in this small island in front of you. So that's something that you can consider doing, and that's what I recommend. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this map. So now we're going to go into the next map. Back in a bit. Okay, we're going to start with unexplored rocks over here, which can be a very tricky map to do things. Okay, so remember, as you progress with this, remember to look around always. There are two things that you need to look on this map. If you are located on the left side, the best option is to hide behind this rock over here. So you are going to start turning to the left immediately. If you are on a carrier, on an assault carrier, and it's pretty slow, and you have a fighter with you, I do recommend to open with the fighter first before starting to turn and hide in that rock. However, if you are on the right side of the map, I recommend you to completely turn, put your helicopters up, and proceed to the rock. And the reason why you need to do that is because usually it takes longer for you as a carrier to get there. So because of that, I recommend you to put your survival before anything else to be on the right side, and that way you're going to make sure to position behind this rock over there that's going to be on that side, this rock over here. So that's what I recommend you to do regarding this map. Now let's go into the next one. So, okay, let's start with Old Factory. So what are my recommendations for this map over here? I have seen a lot of players making a huge mistake over here, and they go and reverse. I do not recommend that at all. The best option that you have in this map is to make sure to turn to the right. Make sure that you are going to position your assault carrier in such a way that if you leave it going by itself, it will be able to position by itself. So what you usually want to do again is that you are going to make sure that it's going to hide over there, leave it on 2, so it's going to start going by itself, and then you open the map. Usually carriers by now have something out there, so you can now use your fighter in order to make sure to take any additional ships. Yeah, that is pretty much it. However, there is some other consideration that you need to take into account. If you have in this map someone on the enemy team that has a submarine, I will highly encourage you to go slightly further and use this mountain in order to take cover. The best approach for you to do it faster is just to crash. Yeah, not very nice, right? But to crash on this, and that way you will be able to have a way to cover yourself against any type of submarines. So this is my recommendation regarding this map. Let's start going into the next one, shall we? Okay, let's continue with assessment. Vikings Bay. I don't want to do, well, it's not like I don't want to, but regarding this one, let's press confirm is going to be fairly quick. This one, technically, you don't need to do anything. And the reason being is that usually this map is very big. So most of the time you're going to have a very hard time having any type of enemy coming to you, and you are pretty much covered from the very beginning. So this is actually a very good map to play as an assault carrier. So with this one, I just recommend to open with a fighter and go on. The only thing that I want you to take into account, again, if there is an enemy that has an anti-ballistic missile submarine, what I recommend you to do is to reverse, so that way you are going to be as far as possible. But if you feel like during your match that you are still getting hurt by anti-ballistic missiles, I have a small trick that you can do. It applies to this map, not all the maps. But something that you can do is that you can continue your attack, and if you see that you are taking damage, you can go back and forth with your carrier. So that way you always keep the enemy guessing on where is your carrier, and most of the times it's going to be very effective, because the submarine, if you're handling the map well and they're not able to see you, then actually it's going to be very good actually this way for you to evade those anti-ballistic missiles. So remember, just go back and forth if you are on danger. Okay, let's go into the next one. Okay, Islands of Iceland. Well, actually this one is very simple, but again, might as well show you. So what is going to happen over here, again, you are going to have an island. It's going to be located here. Sometimes you are going to be located literally in front of it. Other times, as you are seeing over here, you will have to turn right and you will be able to hide. This mountain in particular is very good because it's going to help you to cover against anti-ballistic missiles. I usually recommend, again, to, if you have a fighter, open the map first and then afterwards start moving, especially if you have an assault carrier. If you have a carrier, you can decide to move first and then afterwards open the map, because usually, again, carriers are very quick. Once you do that, you can proceed forward and you can just let it go and continue with your assault. I have seen some people that decide to go into the reverse and or to open the map. Entirely, that depends on you, if I'm completely honest. My recommendation, I think it's best for you just to hide behind that mountain. It is very safe, you are able to cover yourself. Usually when you finish your assault with your strike fighter, for example like this, after some rounds you're going to notice that it's going to be perfect timing, because you have finished the assault with the carrier, for example, the strike fighter, and after that you will just go back and then you stop. You're going to find yourself in the perfect spot to hide. So that's my recommendation for this map. Let's go for the next one. Okay, this one, Monstrous Maelstrom. So what's going to happen in this one is that, first of all, it depends on the map. Sometimes you will have an island where you can pretty much hide right out of the get-go. If you are located on the right side of the map, for example, this is not the case. You say the island that I mean is right over there. So in that case, if you are on that side, you will just go forward and you will hide behind that island. So it's very simple. However, here, this one, what I usually do is hide behind this corner over here. So I again leave my carrier going, and then afterwards I decide to hide over there. My recommendation, again, sometimes is to make sure to keep an eye, because sometimes an enemy ship will try to decide, let's put this way, to hide, for example, to push from the center, and we will be able to see. So my normal advice is just to try to just hide as much as possible, don't play games. However, lately I have been using a strategy myself when on purpose sometimes I leave my carrier exposed so that way the enemy ships are able to target me just a little bit. And sometimes I do that because they are wasting time, because at the end of the day, if I know what I'm doing, I can just go forward and I can just hide anyways. So they are pretty much wasting time, let's put it this way, when they do that. But that is more advanced. For the time being, just focus on hiding over there, and then afterwards you can continue your assault. Just bear in mind on the left side sometimes you can have a very quick helicopter or hovercraft that's going to try to take you out, so just be wary on that. But aside of that, that is my main recommendation. Okay, we are going into the next match, shall we? Okay, Lost City. Let's see what we have to offer over here. This map, again, for me, is actually very interesting. I have seen players that most of the time use the side to stay back. I assume that is because they are afraid to be hit by anti-ballistic missiles. However, my recommendation for me, if you have fairly good air defenses, actually you are helping your team to protect against anti-ballistic missiles, and you're pretty much covering them as well as they are covering you. So my recommendation is just to hide between that spot over here. This is when I usually launch again my fighter, and I can continue going forward with my assault and open the map. Once I have done that, again as usual, I will use my strike fighter and I'll make sure to use all the volleys. But something to bear in mind as you are doing this, you have to keep an eye on your carrier. Why is that, Foxhound? Because again, there is a second critical phase that you want to take into account in this map. So as you get close, if you don't direct your carrier, you will decide to move in a different direction that you want to move. What do I mean? So now that I know that my carrier has reached over here, you are going to stop, and you want to make sure to turn it right, so that way you are able to hide between these mountains over here. Okay, so again what I will do is just turn it around and go forward and hide over here. If there are anti-ballistic missiles, you can hide behind this mountain on the right side. It's very small, but again, same tactic, you can go back and forth to avoid those anti-ballistic missiles. Pro advice, sometimes I stay here so the enemy can see me, and sometimes they want to target me. So I just let them waste their ammo a little bit on me, and then once I am half of my life, then I'll just decide to move forward and hide. And that way you have distracted them, let's put it this way. So that's my recommendation for this particular map. Okay, let's go into the next one, Rising Fortress. People have nightmares about this map. I actually recommend, if for example, if you are able to choose a map, this is one that I will say try to avoid unless you know what you are doing. But if you find yourself that you really want to play this map, how will you do it? Well, there are two options over here. You can reverse and be a brave man and make sure to control the air, so that way they are not able to spot you. It's recommended to do that with a carrier that is able to hide, to have stealth, let's put it this way, because it's going to help you to hide slightly better. However, you are going to notice that my option over here is just go to one of the two sides, the one that you are closest to, go forward, just go all the way. Make sure that you are very well aligned so you are able to cover on that. Make sure to go forward. This is when I will decide to leave my helicopters, and you are going to open them up. And once you open them up, it's up to you. Most of the times I will decide to really focus on paying attention on my carrier. If I see that it's taking damage, then by all means just focus on your carrier, use your flares, so that way you are going to make sure that you are not going to die, because in this map you are going to be the main target. However, if you are seeing that you don't have, you are not receiving as much damage as I thought you were, then you can continue doing the attack as I am doing it for the time being. And your helicopters are going to help you to defend yourself as well, as you notice over here, because you deploy them before going out. So once you have done that, again, this is the time when I start to flare, because they are targeting me, and you want to make sure to either hide here, between here, or a little bit further ahead. It all depends on timing, for example, the type of aircraft that you are using. Sometimes you need to go in front, sometimes you can just manage to stay over there. Just manage yourself depending on how things go, and then after that you can start focusing 100% on the targets, okay? So that's my recommendation for this particular map. Let's go into the next one. Okay, next one is going to be Arid Frontier. One of the maps that I have nightmares about, because every single time, I mean, I'm not going to say it was almost like a guaranteed death, but now I have found a very consistent way of maintaining myself safe. So I don't recommend reversing at all, or in general. So what I usually do is that I usually position myself into this right side over here. So we are going to hide between that rock over here. So what I will do is I literally just again turn around, make sure your carrier is going forward and start attacking. However, there are heavy considerations to take. Usually on the right side there is going to be only one ship, and on the left side is going to be two ships, and that is going to be very, very critical. And you're going to say, why is that, Foxhound? Well, what happens is that you have to be pretty much aware of the map, because after you finish your assault with the first, for example, the volley of the strike fighter that you are using, you are going to find yourself in a situation when you are going to be attacked to the left. So this is when we are going to use, let's put this way, the mountain when you are in, and we are going to hide from the attacks on the left side. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I mean. You see, most of the times you're going to be here and you will be attacked on this side. Same as before, you can decide to leave yourself exposed just a little bit and wait until you are attacked. If you are attacked, then you move forward a little bit, you waste the time of the enemy, and then you cover yourself on the right side of the mountain. If you don't want to do that, if you don't run any risks in particular, what I recommend you to do, right, is just to go forward, and then you are going to hide yourself on this side. Something to bear in mind when you are doing this is make sure that this ship over here, the one ship that shows in front of you, dies, because if not, you are going to be exposed to it. So that's something that you really need to take into account, right? And then afterwards you can proceed and continue with the match as usual. So yeah, that's my recommendation for this one. Let's go into the next one. Okay, now I have decided from the remaining maps, I am going to mention the ones that I think require more strategy, because it seems by now you understand the trick, right? You understand what's going on. In Greenlands, I think I'll do them for them all. I think I already went this far, might as well, right? So Greenlands, we're going to come back in a minute. Okay, in Greenlands, what is going to happen again, if you have some Ghost Commander or something with stealth, you can afford to go in reverse. In general, what I would advise is to choose one of these two mountains in order to hide. If you see the enemy has a submarine that has anti-ballistic missiles, always use the mountain that it has a higher ground to cover. higher altitude, let's put it this way, because that one will be able to protect you against anti-ballistic missiles. Otherwise, if you don't see that there is a submarine with this capability, you can just afford to choose any that you want. What I recommend for this one is like in the middle of the attack with your strike fighter, I want you to take a time to go back and make sure to see where your carrier is, because sometimes, as you notice over here, if you rush it, you're going to find yourself in a position when your assault carrier is not going to be completely covered, and you are going to find yourself at the mercy of missiles from the distance, which is again something to be in mind of. You want to avoid missiles, or you can just decide to waste the time of the enemy at some point, and you can take a little bit of hits and then before proceeding forward. So that's my recommendation for this particular map. Now let's go into the next one. Okay, next one, Polar Frontier as well. It has been the doom of most assault carriers or carriers if you don't handle it properly. Okay, so in this one you're going to find yourself next to an island. Sometimes if you are on the left side, you're going to find yourself that you're going to be farther ahead. So what you want to do is you want to reverse and you want to move all the way. You have to see on the map, and it's like parking a car. You have to make sure that you are able to hide behind that mountain. If you are lucky, as I was in this particular map, you will be able just to put reverse and let the AI do its thing. However, if you are in the right side, you want to take more time to steer to the left and make sure that you are going to be able to hide, let's put it this way. I will even spend more time even looking at my carrier, because most of the time the enemy team is going to rush you 100%. So you have to make sure to be able to hide. So keep an eye on your carrier, even like use flares and everything until you are 100% sure that you are safe. Keep doing that. As you can see, once you leave it over here, you're going to find yourself in a position when you are hidden. If you have anti-ballistic missiles, try to spend some additional time, only to the right or left, depending on what you are doing, to try to hide from anti-ballistic missiles. Again, if you see that the enemy has submarines, if not, you don't have to mind at all. One additional consideration to take into account of this map: make sure to try to hit the carrier first, or try to open the map and see the carrier, because sometimes the enemy carrier can make the mistake of not hiding fast enough, and that's something that can be taken into an advantage. So if you find yourself in a situation when you spawn on the right side, most likely the enemy carrier is going to be positioned in a bad spot. So use that as your advantage. Let's go for the next one. Okay, 2 Samurai. What should we do in this match? This can be a very tricky one, and even more difficult for assault carriers. But if you have a carrier, you have a slight more option, let's put it this way. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. Okay, so if you are in this map, if you are on the left side, you won the jackpot. You are safe. The only thing that you need to do is to make sure to position yourself between these two mountains, and with that you are good to go. You can even live in at speed of 1 and you are good. However, if you are on this map and you spawn on this left side, as you can see over here, facing the enemy, there are a couple of options that you can take. If you are an assault carrier, if you have stealth, you can reverse, and then the idea is that you want to reverse and then afterwards push forward and try to hide over here. The reverse, you are going to leave it doing it by itself and then launch a strike fighter or fighter and do your thing, and then afterwards tend to hide. Other thing you can do is spend some time to go into this right side and hide over here. That's my first recommendation. Turn to the right and hide over here. If you are a carrier, you can even decide a fast carrier, for example, like Charles de Gaulle, America, something like that. You can either decide to either stop altogether and go to the left and try to hide over there. And why is this tricky? What is this an option for carriers? Is that this is a map that if you spawn in this area, you're going to be rushed on this side, and if there are no allies in this side, you have to prepare yourself to fight alone against the rushers. And so this is pretty much something that's going to test your skill if you are on this side. So please make sure to do everything in your power to be prepared for a rush. Hide yourself very well on this side. If you see that you are by yourself, prioritize yourself to take out the people that are trying to rush you, and at the same time, if you see that the enemy is going to have your allies are taking out the other ships quicker, other thing that you can use is to say, look, I am not that fighting, but at least I tell my allies to take out as many ships as possible. And so that's something that you can decide. Either fight the rushers or help your team to kill their other ships, even knowing that you are going to fall into combat as well. Okay. I will be leaving maybe another video I think I should do in order to tell you how to defend yourself against rushers. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, we are close to the end. 3 more maps. I hope that you are enjoying the video. So, Hidden map, okay, Hidden Dragon, sorry. Again, another very tricky map for carriers. So this can go in many different ways. Sometimes when you have this map, you are going to find yourself with a heavy mountain on this side, and then you are golden, you can just hide. But if you are placed like this, there are a couple of options that you can do. You can decide to reverse and try to hide behind that mountain. What I have been doing lately is actually going forward and hiding on that mountain over here, and then you have to see the map. If you see rushers and you are on a carrier, you can even decide to go into the left again. Most of the times I do recommend in this map when you are doing is to keep an eye for rushers. Make them your priority. Don't make any other ships your priority. Make sure that any type of frigates or destroyers that are trying to rush go over there. So try to take them out first. Unless you really see a golden opportunity for your team to take off. If you see that there is an opportunity, most of the people on the left side, you can always decide even to turn right over here and continue going forward. If you're finding a position when you have a heavy mountain on that side, then you just can afford just to reverse and make sure just to be hidden over there. Okay, so that is my recommendation regarding that map. Let's go into the next one. Okay, Stone Peaks, one of the maps that can be very tricky again, but if you follow this strategy, you should be fine to go. So there are multiple things that you can do over here. Some people again prefer to reverse. I don't recommend that, but that's just me. Leave in the comments what we'll do. What I usually choose is to go to the center, so I will turn right, and I will try to bypass this small gap when people are going to try to take you out. I will leave my helicopters up and then I open the map. Afterwards, you can do a lot of things over here. If you see that your team is heading to the right and want to try to hit the carrier, then use your fighter to try to make sure to expose that carrier and make it your priority. So if that carrier falls first, then that is very good for you, but only if you see that there are people in your team that are trying to take out the carrier. Otherwise, my recommendation is to make sure to keep an eye on this side of the map, and as soon as you see that you are taking damage, so I'm going to go back. As soon as you see that you are taking damage, make a speed up, go forward, hopefully your team is there, and then that way you will be able to survive, especially if you have the helicopters over here. Once you have that, you reach this point when you can decide to hide behind this mountain if there are anti-ballistic missiles. Other thing that you can do is you can decide to go left or right, depending on where your team is going. I recommend you to be in the same direction as your team, because you don't want to be faced on a situation when you are facing against another ship and you are by yourself. So bear in mind, this is a map where you have to be very mindful on where your team is going as well and make critical decisions. Okay? So with that, let's go into the next one. And finally, the end of the line, Storm. What will you do on a Storm? Okay, so for this particular map, there's nothing that can, well, there's something you have to do. I'm not saying there's nothing you can do, but let's going to be very mindful. So you are not going to attempt to hide in the front. That's not going to happen. You want to put reverse, take out your helicopters, take out your fighter, open the map, and I will say try to take out as many air targets as possible while you're using your fighter or your strike fighter, because those are the ones that are able to open the map. If you are able to take out anything that is able to find you, to keep the map open for the enemy team, then you will be able to win. So this is what I will do after you use your fighter, use your strike fighter. If it has the capability to take out anything that is able to find you, use your strike fighter for that matter. So any helicopters, anything like that. And then after that, you're going to make all the efforts to either try to take out, to find, let's put it this way, the carrier, the enemy carrier, or you're going to make all the efforts to find any type of ships that are going to try to be far away, let's put it this way, and use their stealth in open seas in order to attack. So you are going to abuse that, you are going to make them your priority, because if you open the map and your allies are able to see either the carrier or those ships that are pretty much trying to play stealth, then you are going to help your team greatly. So yeah, that is my recommendation for this one. You can always decide to, once your carrier has made it all the way to the end, you can always turn right and reverse it a little bit forward to win the corner of it. Same situation that I mentioned previously. If you have submarines that are using anti-ballistic missiles, you can decide pretty much over here to go forward or backwards, as I'm going to demonstrate here. Right, you are on reverse. You can go forward and you can leave the carrier going forward, and you are going to pretty much go like that to keep the submarine guessing. And that way they are going to waste a lot of time. They are not going to kill you, whereas your submarine on the other hand is actually paying attention to key targets and not wasting precious time. Okay, so I'm going to leave with my final remarks. Okay everyone, hope that you enjoyed all the reviews on the map and on positioning. This has been a longer video than usual, but as you can see, there are so many things that you need to take into account. So I gave you my thoughts, my thought process for everything regarding all the maps, considerations, where to park the assault carrier or the carrier, something that I will take into account. Try to use, that's why, for example, Enterprise is very good, one of the good options, because it's able to move fairly quickly. However, if you are using a carrier or if you are using an assault carrier that is fairly quick, for example Pang, you are going to notice that if you position yourself very well, you will be able to win more matches because you are not dying at the very beginning of the match. Okay, and that is critical. So try to hide your carrier while opening the map, and that is going to help you to win more consistent matches. So please let me know in the comments what are your thoughts. Remember to like, comment and subscribe. Remember, I have a playlist with more tutorials and tips for assault carriers or carriers. I guess next one will be an assessment on tactics on and choosing the best strike fighter for you. But yes, aside of that, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and this is Foxhound signing off. Have a good day, everyone.